Michigan looked like it got its fifth transfer portal commitment, and it was a big one. It was a big name that Michigan fans who followed recruiting for some time, they obviously know. It was a Belleville guy, 5-star, never really gave Michigan the time of day. As someone who intermittently covers recruiting, I could have told you a lot about that recruitment to begin with. However, then things took a turn. Let's talk about Damon Payne and everything that has to do with that here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Odd situation unfolding in Ann Arbor with as I mentioned on yesterday's show, I have not been sleeping well lately. And so I woke up relatively late today, still underslept. And once I woke up, I saw Damon Payne has signed with Michigan. And I'm like, oh, I better get on this. And so I hurried and got on it. I wrote it up. Signed, sealed, delivered. It's out there in the ether for Wolverines Wire. Except for that didn't end up telling the whole story. I saw Daryl Graham, DGA, one of his handlers, trainers. I don't really know how to describe the people that are like the inner circle people. He takes to Twitter and says he has not signed with Michigan. And from there, then you started seeing some rescinding of the note that he had signed with Michigan. The first reports initially of the commitment, the first one I saw actually came from Matt Zenitz from 24/7 Sports, who says he is expected to sign with Michigan. Then you saw Pete Nakos, who says he has signed with Michigan. You saw Lou Esposito, Michigan defensive line coach, celebrating. There's reports of the Damon Payne's father celebrating him signing with Michigan. Bryce Underwood posted that he signed with Michigan. Okay, like there was a whole bunch of stuff that kind of had come out through there. But here's what the truth is. Yes, Damon Payne had signed with Michigan. After checking in more so with a couple colleagues, he had signed with Michigan. That did happen. However, he was unaware that what he was sending in was actually him signing. The belief was that it was more of an application, because you still have to go through all the college processes and things of that nature. So from there, then that's why it was rescinded. It was like, oh, I'm not trying to sign with Michigan just yet. It was going through the process of doing so. And as a result, the recruitment is still open, but like he was showing on the transfer portal as signed, all of that stuff, right? Like he was off the board. Yet a lot of people have kind of have taken this as an opportunity to run with different narratives. But we'll get to that in segment 2. I want to kind of get into the recruiting site wars, because it's going way too far in every shape, size, scope, all of that. But with the Damon Payne of it all, this doesn't affect Michigan. And I don't think it affects Damon Payne himself either, right? Like it's a bad look for this to be played out in the media the way it is, but that's just kind of what happens. It seems like to some degree there was an honest mistake involved. To another degree, there was maybe some ulterior motives on both sides. People within his circle to get him to sign, to get him to rescind, all of these things. But as far as Michigan and Damon are concerned, as far as I know, like this will still be a process. He's still going to go through and check out his other options, USC among them, which, I mean, given the opportunity to go to Michigan or USC at this moment, I don't know why you would pick USC unless you're just getting way more money. USC, is, we talked about yesterday, it is a ship that is sinking well into the depths at the moment. I'm not saying it can't rise out of that, but it's not in a good scenario at the moment either. So where Michigan stands, I mean, it's just going to it has to backtrack, and then it has to continue. It certainly is going to hope it can get Damon Payne in the fold. Now, he hasn't had incredible production at the college level, as kind of was expected. It's hard to do that at Alabama regardless, because you've got a lot of bodies there. So if you're not necessarily taking the development piece, you might not necessarily get there, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. You look at you look at our good friend, and for some reason the name's escaping me. It's defensive end who ended up coming to Michigan for a year and then going to Charlotte. You know who I'm talking about. Iabioki. There we go. I knew it started with an E. You saw that kind of scenario play out for him. So you hope that you can get him, and whether Payne can grow into a starter, whether he can be a developmental piece, we'll find out, hopefully in Ann Arbor. But nonetheless, it's an unfortunate situation to have all this played in the media, because it just kind of doesn't look good for anybody. It doesn't look good for Michigan. It doesn't look good for the writers. It doesn't look good for the fans, honestly, that are having strong reactions to this online. And I think that everyone just needs to chill out and say, like, okay, this is kind of a weird one-off, and we just need to take a step back and let the process play out. If he ends up in Ann Arbor, it's not going to happen because you had a hot take. It's not going to happen because Michigan had to go above and beyond to do something to kind of rectify this. Michigan didn't push for the signature. It was sent in to Michigan. Hence the excitement coming out of Ann Arbor. Right? Like, so that you have to understand that, like, there's different things that have happened here in this scenario. It's weird. I'm not going to lie. It's absolutely bizarre. I've never seen anything quite like this. I've never seen someone, get a signing voided in this way. I've seen guys get out of signings. I've seen guys Xavier Worthy with some of the admissions issues that he was facing, and all of that, wanted to get out because just things were essentially, I don't want to say promised, but things weren't going exactly as they looked like they were going to. So it's I've never seen anything though like this, where it was like he comes in and before you know it, he's out, because it never was intended to happen. That said, there's been some hilarious fodder coming out of this. I've seen multiple people post like, hey, look at that. He his one day at Michigan, he has just as many wins in the game as Jack Sawyer. I mean, you can't beat the type of amazing content that comes out of this. That's the content that we need. Not all of this infighting about who's right, who's wrong. On three ruins everything. I'm Team Sam Webb and Michigan Insider. No, I'm Team On Three. I'm tired of scam. All of this stuff needs to just at some point come to a head and end. Let's talk about the site wars, and we're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, so when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we got the college football playoffs starting here in a couple of days, and one of the ways that you can have a little bit added fun is by getting involved in the daily fantasy sports aspect, and the best way to do that is with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get your real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. Like I said, you can win up to $1,000 your money on Prize Picks. Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Join now because the holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they are giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. So make sure that you download the app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download again the app Prize Picks today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. man, I hate it when my computer decides it's not following along with the action, with where I'm at in my podcast. That means I have no idea how long I've been running. That's always fun. It just eventually is like, yeah, no, we're done. I don't know why it did this. C'est la vie. All right, let's talk about the on-3 24/7 sports of it all, because it's getting tiring, and I've kind of had my say a little bit on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Full disclosure, I am friends with people on all three of the major sites, right? Like when I speak colleagues, they can come from any of the three if it's something like this, recruiting and a transfer portal and all of that. I don't have a dog in the fight. I am a member of both the Wolverine as well as Maize and Blue Review. I am not on 24/7. That part of that's probably because I used to work there. And I just never felt like rejoining a site in which I used to work at. It seems kind of weird to me to do so. But I think that Sam Webb is excellent. I think that EJ Holland is excellent. I think that Josh Henschke and Trevor McHugh are excellent. That said, the rivalry between Sam and EJ has caused, I want to talk first more about what it's caused. And that's a lot of people pointing fingers, taking sides, all of these things, and blaming On3 for things that On3 has nothing to do with. Pete Nakos, who is a national reporter for On3, was the one who initially reported that Damon Payne had signed. And that was accurate information, as much as people don't want to believe that at this moment. Certain people. That is accurate information. And then they accurately reported he has voided that, right? Like, this wasn't On3 jumping the gun. This wasn't On3 doing anything other than reporting what had actually happened. Michigan got his signature. He was marked as signed in the transfer portal. And there you go. Done deal. You can say, well, the kid didn't announce it. Well, there was no indication from them that he wanted to announce it. That doesn't always, like, I know in the me first culture that we exist in, often you do expect the kid, or more so Hayes Fawcett or one of his contemporaries across, Stizo or one of those others, to be the one that breaks it. Okay. That doesn't always happen that way. So, oftentimes you see that someone just commits. Donovan McCauley, I believe, didn't announce anything. It just kind of happened, right? That's how it works oftentimes, especially with the transfer portal. But there's just all this pushback now of being like, can we cancel On3? They're wrong, and they've always been wrong. Listen, there was some tension, certainly, with the Bryce Underwood recruitment. They didn't start it, but they were the ones who got the most attention when it came to the number being published. CBS Sports, which is actually the one that owns 24/7 Sports, I know as someone who was first and foremost a CBS Interactive employee once upon a time, they were the ones who initially put things out there, and then it was just more so confirmed by EJ, right? And the Underwoods seem to have had a problem with that for multiple reasons. They didn't want the number being out. It still wasn't accurate. All of these things. And certainly there was some anger. But guess what? No harm, no foul. They ended up committing to Michigan. There were other reports of either side on 3 or 24/7 Sports ruining commitments. And I've had inside information with people close to Michigan about either side having some issues that have certainly hampered some recruitments. So what needs to happen at this point, number one, is I think that each side needs to back into its own corner and do the job to the best of their ability. And stop trying to do this, we're supreme over, I know multiple fans, lots of you who watch and listen to this show, who are members of multiple sites. I can go on 3 and Maize and Blue Review and see many of you that have the same, you have the same username. You're posting different things on there. I've gotten from people who I know are members of one, people that send me screenshots from 24/7. It's the same thing. This loyalty due to brand is absurd. People want accurate information. And oftentimes, accurate information in the moment might look erroneous once everything's done. Hence, people coming after Steve Wiltfong and Pete Nakos for the Billy Edwards of it all, saying like, hey, you put in a crystal ball for Michigan and he didn't end up coming here. Inaccurate. Like, well, it was accurate at the time. That's the nature of following recruiting. Things don't always wrap itself up in a pretty little box. Things can change. Okay? So it's important for you to have that perspective that just because there's a prediction or something bad seems to happen, you know, with this Damon Payne thing, I see people on multiple boards and Twitter saying like, don't even want him now. Why not? Why wouldn't you want him now? Just because it got messy for a minute? Like if he's out there and he makes a sack against, you know, at a pivotal moment or stops a big run or something like that in a pivotal moment, you're going to sit there and say, you know what, that did work out. Like, I'm glad he's here. You want talent. It doesn't really matter how they get here, right? You just want them here. That's kind of the point. So I think that it's more crucial that gets figured out. And I think that it is detrimental to the Michigan ecosphere that this war between sites stops, or not stops, that it continues. It's detrimental to the Michigan ecosphere that you have these warring factions. Each just needs to go into their own corner, do their jobs to the best of their ability. That's what I try to do without any kind of, I'm not trying to say be like me. I'm not saying that, but I've learned the harm that comes with just this, you know, this pride-driven scenario. And listen, I've talked to multiple people about this right to their face. You know, we've had members of 2 of the 3 sites, 24/7, the Michigan Insider and the Wolverine, on this show. EJ's been on this show. Bryce Marich has been on this show. Obviously, Steve Lorenz has a long time ago. He's my mentor, and I love him dearly. I wouldn't be in this position without him. You look at On 3, I also wouldn't be in this position without Steve Wiltfong. I absolutely adore so many people on the beat. There's really no one on this beat that I could look at and say, like, you know what? As far as people actually on the beat, and even the people that I don't like necessarily, I've learned to forgive and love from afar. So it's just got to stop. It's doing no one any good. If you're trying to like boost yourself to sell subscriptions, there's a better way to do it. And I think that the constant warring that's going on is just not helping matters. Now, if you've been fortunate enough to stay above the fray and not pay attention to this, good on you. I feel caught in the middle sometimes. But I just think that it is in everyone's best interest that it stop. And I think it's in the fans' best interest to not necessarily sit and pick a side. Some guys are going to be right. Some guys are going to be wrong. And that happens on both sides. And guess what? Some guys are going to be right and it's going to look wrong. And it's going to make people sit there and be like, okay. That's just the nature of the business, right? We are dealing with teenagers and young adults for the most part. We're also, like I've told you, there have been times that coaches have told me things and they end up being wrong. Like, you know, if at the time that Josh Gaddis was the offensive coordinator of Michigan, if he told you something like, hey, this is what's happening in a recruitment or with a player or something like that, you would be like, well, this is what's happening. There's no way it's not. And then just when it doesn't, it looks bad. I've looked bad as a result of it. And guess what? That's nature of the business. I'm not crying over it myself. I just hope that you understand that if we get something wrong, I can tell you, yeah, I flubbed this, or hey, I was told intel that didn't end up being correct. I have flubbed many a thing myself. So I'm not better or holier than thou than anybody, because we are all human. We all make mistakes. That includes the person reporting the news and the person who is in the news or the person giving the news. So everyone needs to chill out. We need to stop having egos over these things. It's ridiculous. It's detrimental to the program. And it is important that the fans stay above the fray themselves. Let's continue along that line of thought with the fans. And I want to give a more vehement defense of On 3 here, I think, a little bit. So we'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, it's that time of year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. I'll tell you what, my least favorite shows are not the ones in which I'm ranting and raving. That's every show. It's when I have to keep manually going back to my audio program and Adobe Audition and just moving the little box over and over so that I can see where it's at. I don't know why it stopped. I didn't touch it. I didn't move it. It just decided it was going to stop doing it. Tricks of the trade, people. Tricks of the trade. All right. Just kind of seeing here. Eli Sanders commits to USC. That doesn't matter for our intentions and purposes. All right. So I do want to make sure that lost in all of that, I don't want you to think that I'm like sitting here being like, these are bad actors doing bad things. That's not what I'm saying. I have much respect for all parties involved, Sam, EJ, everybody. I'm closer with EJ than I am Sam at this juncture. But I'm also very close with Bryce Marich, and I'm close with, I haven't talked to Steve Lorenz that much lately, but I'm close with them. I wish all sites nothing but the best, but the On3 hate that has happened recently is absurd. And like I said on one of the threads, I said, I call balls and strikes like I see them. So if On3 is doing something that I think is reprehensible or actually damaging, then I'm going to call it out. But I'll do it. I might not necessarily do it on this show. I might do it more internally. And I have done that, going kind of direct to the people. But I think that everything is blown so out of proportion based off of some of the Bryce stuff, right? Like it did not end up mattering in the grand scheme. Did it feel like a big deal in the moment? Sure. But did it end up actually playing a factor? It did not. It absolutely did not. Okay. Number one. So I want to commend On3, especially the Michigan site, for doing exemplary work across the board. I was a paid member there, not just to support my friends, because I think they do excellent work. And I'm not the only reporter that has done this, done so. So I think it's absolutely crucial that they aren't looked down upon just based off of, let's just put it earnestly, some kind of fantastical elements and narratives. And I understand why either side wants to paint the other as not being above board or doing things recklessly or doing things erroneously, because it serves their own interest. But I think it's really, and both sides in this war do this. So it is very important, I think, though, to give them their flowers when they deserve it, and they deserve a lot of flowers for a lot of the stuff that they've done. EJ has been all over a lot of things, and even the voided signing, EJ was all over that. He's the first person I saw that said anything about it before Pete Nakos, before anyone. Like he's out front saying like, hey, yo, like this actually is kind of a little bit more of a nuanced situation, and we need to call truth out here. And then yet he's the one who gets the blame, which is absolutely absurd. So I do want to give them credit. And Pete Nakos went and reported himself like, hey, so it was signed, it was voided. It was more accurate than Matt Zenitz's report of he's expected to sign to Michigan, because he had actually signed to Michigan and then had it voided. So with that in mind, like that's the more accurate report of it. And people are online blaming On3's own site. People are on Twitter doing so. And I understand people want to pile on. You want to pick a side. You want to choose your house. Are you House Lannister? Are you House Baratheon or Stark or what have you? I'm just saying you don't have to be any of it. You could be House Westeros. Because Michigan is Westeros in my Game of Thrones analogy here. Right? It shouldn't matter. Now, if someone does something that ends up actually being detrimental to a recruit coming, right, then we can talk. But as of this point, there were some contentious recruitments that have happened in this cycle because of these warring factions. And yet, Bryce Underwood, Andrew Babalola, Shamari Earls all ended up signing with the Wolverines. I'm not saying it's no harm, no foul, but it just, my message to you, the fans, be kind and be peaceful throughout this process with either site. I wouldn't accept a lot of the sticking your... a lot of the flag planting that's happening, right? I'm not going to try to be Ohio State about all of this, but I wouldn't accept some of the flag planting and what have you. Just go for who you like as far as the media personalities. That's the same reason why, some of you, and I'm blessed to have those of you who watch and listen or, read and follow me on social media and all of that. But, handle it all with grace if you can. Understand that people are going to make mistakes. Hope that they take ownership of those mistakes when they happen. If they explain to you something you don't want to hear, that doesn't mean they made a mistake. That just means that they are privy maybe to some information that you don't know or whatever, and go accordingly. But I will say this. I don't think that you can go wrong with whatever site you choose. If you do choose to follow one of the niche sites, the subscription sites, I think that you're going to get excellent stuff from the On3 crew. You're going to get excellent stuff from the Michigan Insider crew, and you're going to get excellent stuff from Maize and Blue Review. You just got to pick which site which media personalities you like the best, which boards you like the best, and kind of go from there. And sometimes some are going to be more plugged into something than others. There's a reason why, I know Sam was extremely plugged in with Bryce Underwood. I was extremely plugged in with the Bryce Underwood of it all as well. There's going to be times, and then there were times where you looked around and other sites weren't. There's times where you're going to see guys on 3 be like, hey, Michigan actually really interested in Justice Haynes, and right as that kind of heats up, and other sites don't necessarily report on that right away. Josh Henschke was also all over that. You're right. The intel is the intel, but that's one of the things to kind of remind you, because I know a lot of people are like, you stole this from whatever. No, the intel is just the intel. And, a lot of times we're talking to the same people. So the intel is just going to be the intel. And so pick who you feel like has the best intel most of all, in terms of like regularity, as far as accuracy, and who you like dealing with the most, and choose accordingly. But it doesn't need to be some kind of pissing match that gets everyone worked into a frenzy on a Wednesday. It's counterproductive and it's absurd. So that's all I have to say about that. All right, we're going to mailbag it on Thursday. We're going to do that. This is probably our last mailbag of the year with the bowl game and everything happening. I'm thinking we're probably not going to have a show next Thursday because I'll be traveling, not only flying into Orlando, but then driving into Tampa. So my guess is there will not be, if there's an episode, it'll be early from home. That might happen. But this is probably the last mailbag of the year. So I will put a call in for questions on X tomorrow morning. And at that point, you get your questions in. We probably won't be recording until about 4 due to a press conference at 2. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.